All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, last off season, when quarterback Sam Darnold signed a 1 year deal to join the Minnesota Vikings, little did anybody know, including Darnold, what was about to happen. Darnold was supposed to be a stopgap guy, if you will, for the Vikings. After the team used a first round pick on quarterback J.J. McCarthy last spring, and some wondered, hey, maybe Darnold goes out there, he starts a couple of games for the Vikings and then gives way for J.J. McCarthy, or maybe possibly you know, he could show some flashes himself throughout the season and, maybe showcase himself for another backup job in 2025. But that has not been the case. I mean, McCarthy tore his ACL early on in the preseason. So this quickly became Sam Darnold's starting job with the Minnesota Vikings. And not only that, but it opened the door for Darnold to revive his once promising NFL career. And you think about it, what we have seen from Sam Darnold this season is the stuff that dreams are made of, as he has passed for more than 4,000 yards so far this season and 35 touchdowns, as the Vikings are one of the top teams in the National Football League. Now, currently, the Vikings are 14-2 on this season, and you just think about it. I mean, wow, what can you say about this team, and what can you say about the performance of Sam Darnold so far this season? And then on top of that, the Vikings have a big time showdown next Sunday night with the Detroit Lions, as it's not only going to determine who wins the NFC North, but also who's going to get home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. Now, during this season with Minnesota, Darnold has displayed the potential that made him a top five selection in the NFL draft of the New York Jets back in 2018. It never came together for Darnold during his time with the Jets, and for a variety of reasons. Okay. And you think about it, in Darnold's 3 years there with the Jets, his record was just 13-25. So basically, he's matched his win total in 3 seasons as a Jet starting quarterback in less than one season. He's actually surpassed it now in this run with the Minnesota Vikings. And in regards to the 35 touchdowns that Darnold has thrown already this season, he threw 45 in those 3 years with the Jets. Okay, so it didn't work out for him with the Jets for a variety of reasons. But then, he got traded by the Jets to the Carolina Panthers. He began to show some of the flashes that made him a top five pick, in Carolina. He spent 2 years there. And then, of course, I think the big moment for him was going to San Francisco, working with Kyle Shanahan last year and being the backup quarterback to Brock Purdy. But it has all come together here for him this season with the Vikings, and he's about to cash in big time during free agency. So, one question for me is, with the big season that we've seen from Sam Darnold so far this year, one would say, why would the Vikings allow him to walk in free agency? I mean, they've put plenty of stock in JJ McCarthy, and rightfully so. I mean, you trade into the first round to get a franchise with a quarterback who you feel is going to be your franchise guy. Uh, you're hopeful that things work out for that player. And of course, nobody expected JJ McCarthy to be injured, in the preseason. But nonetheless, could a run in the playoffs change that, as far as, Sam Darnold being the guy for Minnesota going forward? And the reason why I say it is this: could Minnesota really afford to have another Case Keenum, Kirk Cousins type situation on their hands? Remember back in 2017, it was Case Keenum that helped the Vikings get to the NFC Championship game before they fell to the Philadelphia Eagles. And after that, the Vikings figured, well, all we need is a quarterback and we'll be okay. And of course, they went out there, gave that fully guaranteed contract to one Kirk Cousins. And of course, the rest is history. And what did the Vikings have to show? for Kirk Cousins' time as their starting quarterback. They made two trips to the postseason and they never got past the second round. Okay, this time around, you think about it, the Vikings have the potential to do some damage next month in the postseason. And you just have to wonder if the Vikings do make a deep run into the playoffs, would they be compelled to bring Sam Darnold back? That's going to be the big thing. And of course, if they're going to bring Sam Darnold back, hypothetically speaking, Minnesota's going to have to pay him because you think about it. Sam Darnold picked the best time to go out here and put up the numbers that he has this season. Why? Because we're talking about a weak quarterback class coming out in April in comparison to last year's class. There are plenty of quarterback needy teams around the NFL. And aside from the weak quarterback class in the draft, there's not a strong quarterback class in free agency or expected to be in free agency this coming off season. So you're going to have teams like the Tennessee Titans, the Las Vegas Raiders, and possibly the New York Giants, okay, that could want Sam Darnold's services. And with the going rate for the quarterback position right now in the NFL, someone's going to have to pay him if they want him. On the flip side of things, could it simply be buyer beware for Sam Darnold? And the reason why I say that is Sam Darnold a product of Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, and of course, throwing the football to one Justin Jefferson, who's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. One could make a compelling case for that as well. But I'll tell you like this: Sam Darnold, and typically when you get drafted as high as he did, you typically are going to a bad organization. And Sam Darnold, when he was drafted by the Jets, he walked into a very bad situation. The Jets were not a good football team. I know they fired Todd Bowles after 2018. They brought in Adam Gase, and Adam Gase was supposed to be the quarterback guru, if you will. And of course, he really wasn't. That was going to go out there and fix Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold's best season with the Jets did come in 2019. He was 7-6 that year. The Jets went 7-9 overall. He threw 19 touchdown passes to 13 interceptions. Of course, it did not work out for him in 2020. And the Jets, a lot of change came from that point. You know, the Jets got a new GM, new head coach, and of course, they weren't attached at the hip with Sam Darnold. He was expendable, and they went in a different direction with one Zach Wilson. Didn't work out with Carolina. He walked into a bad situation, but nonetheless, now we're seeing what can happen again when you put players in the right type situation. I think what we're seeing from Sam Darnold right now is probably the best situation for him. He can cash in free agency. I don't think it'd be the same if he went to a Tennessee, for an example. I don't think it'd be the same if he went to the Raiders. But nonetheless, you got two teams, just to speak of them right there, that are more than likely going to be quarterback needy because I don't care what anybody says. I think Brian Callahan in less than one season has had it up to here and then some with Will Levis, and Will Levis is not his guy at franchise quarterback as a franchise quarterback going forward in Nashville. So part of it could be buyer beware for Sam Darnold, but nonetheless, credit to Kevin O'Connell for maximizing the potential that everybody thought Sam Darnold had coming out of USC several years ago. Now, nonetheless, not too many people paid attention when Darnold signed with the Vikings this past offseason, but I guarantee you that all eyes are going to be on Sam Darnold this January. Why? Because the playoff stage will be very telling for a player. And Sam Darnold has had a phenomenal season. And if he can cap it off with a big time January, guess what? He can write his own ticket. And it begins this Sunday night against the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. Why? Because, you know, if Darnold goes out there and has a big game and helps the Vikings win the NFC North, they get that first round bye. And then the road to the Super Bowl on the NFC side would then go through Minneapolis. And if Darnold is able to keep this up in the month of January and help the Vikings make a run to the Super Bowl, not saying they're going to win it, but if he can help them make a run and make a deep run into January and possibly February, guess what? A lot of people are going to pay attention to that. And maybe, just maybe, he in the process could twist the arm of the Minnesota Vikings to have them bring him back. I'm just throwing this out there because, again, I know that the Vikings put a lot of stock into JJ McCarthy. Okay. Make no mistake about it. You don't draft a quarterback in round number one, especially that high in round number one, and you don't think that he can be your franchise guy going forward. But just maybe, Sam Darnold might tip that equation, if you will. But nonetheless, regardless if the Vikings have a change of heart or whomever it is going to be, nonetheless, Sam Darnold is about to be a very rich guy in a couple of months for what he can potentially do on the football field. Nobody expected this from Sam Darnold this season. He's living up to that potential. I do think, in my opinion, the Vikings are the perfect place for him going forward, but nobody expected this scenario, okay? With how things have gone down for him with the Vikings this season. Let's see what happens in the playoffs and let's see what happens over the offseason. But nonetheless, big time season for Sam Darnold. And let's see how much it's going to allow him to cash in with in free agency after the season is done. But, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.